Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome you all to the 10th webinar of the series of webinars on generative AI in higher education and teacher education, organized by the Center for Educational Technology and Media and the Faculty of Education at the Open Institute of Sri Lanka. I'm Shironika Karunanayaka from the Faculty of Education, and I'm currently the Acting Director of the Center for Educational Technology and Media, or CETME. The main purpose of initiating this series of webinars is to raise awareness and to facilitate critical discussion among teachers, learners, researchers, and practitioners on the meaningful integration of generative AI into educational practices. Up to now, we have conducted 9 webinars presented by eminent international experts. All these webinars are the recordings of the webinars are uploaded on the Open Education OUSL YouTube channel of the Open Institute of Sri Lanka. And today, I am very happy to welcome another leading scholar and expert in the field, Professor Helen Crompton, to present on the topic, Responsible Use of Generative AI in Education. I would like to warmly welcome Professor Helen Crompton. Before we commence the webinar, let me briefly introduce her to you. Dr. Helen Crompton is the Executive Director of the Research Institute for Digital Innovation in Learning and Professor of Instructional Technology at Old Dominion University, USA. She earned her PhD in Educational Technology and Mathematics Education from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And Dr. Crompton is a recognized pioneer in applying artificial intelligence to education. In 2017, she designed one of the world's first AI courses specifically for teachers, followed in 2019 by the development of the first AI framework for the United Nations. Recognized for her outstanding contributions, Dr. Crompton is on Stanford's esteemed list of the top 2% of scientists in the world in artificial intelligence. She has published extensively on the topic and created AI-focused professional development for educators across diverse disciplines and countries. Her work in technology integration has garnered numerous accolades, including the SCHEV Award for the Outstanding Professor of Virginia. Dr. Crompton's expertise extends beyond academia to practice, as she frequently serves as a consultant for various governments, bilateral and multilateral organizations, such as the United Nations and the World Bank, leveraging her knowledge and experience to drive meaningful change in the field of educational technology. Dr. Crompton is widely recognized as a compelling speaker and an influential voice in the field of educational innovation. She has delivered over 80 keynotes and invited presentations in 23 countries across 6 continents. I too have had the opportunity to personally meet her recently at the UNESCO Digital Learning Week 2025 in Paris, where she delivered a keynote. We are delighted that she has very kindly agreed to present this webinar for us today. So, before I hand over to Professor Crompton to start her webinar, I'm very happy that quite a good number of participants are here. Our teachers, not only from the Open Institute of Sri Lanka, but also from other countries, especially from OU UK. Also, there are participants joining us, and our students, teachers, learners. There's a wide variety of participants today. And I would like to inform the participants that we are going to have a QA session at the end of the presentation. And you can post any questions or any comments in the chat box so that Professor Crompton can take them at the end of the webinar. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. And I would like to hand over to Dr. Helen Crompton to commence the webinar. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. It's absolutely wonderful to be here in front of you today. So we're going to be talking about a topic which has been at the forefront of everyone's minds since the release really of ChatGPT November 2022. So as I begin here, let me quick give you an overview of what I'm going to cover, because it's going to be a short time to make sure that you get time to ask lots of questions as well. But we're going to do the overview, kind of what's happening, the context, why we need to change, but then strategies that we need to look at and new assessments that we can explore. So first things first, I have a question for you, the audience. So before ChatGPT came out in November 2022, how many of you used artificial intelligence? Perhaps on a weekly basis. Please just check in on the chat over there. How many people used it? Say yes or no, or something else. Okay. I'm seeing some people, yep, no. Yep, so before ChatGPT came out, how many people used it? Yes. Yes. Okay, so great comments there. Okay, right, let me ask you another question. Since we now know we're using ChatGPT as well, since ChatGPT came out, might not be ChatGPT, it might be Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, how many people are using it now? Okay, yes, getting a lot of yes, using. Okay, so let me tell you, you have all been using artificial intelligence for absolutely years. If you've used Google search, you might have heard of it, became popular for a while. Google search has used artificial intelligence since 1998 when it first came out. Very basic form, but it was still using artificial intelligence, and then it used all sorts from RankBrain to BERT, things we didn't really hear about. But all you noticed is programs were getting better. If anyone used Google Translate early on, feel free to post in the chat. I had some interesting times using Google Translate. I remember I was a classroom teacher for 16 years before going into higher education. And I remember using Translate to make a letter for me, and I gave it to someone just to check it over, and they said, "Oh no, do not send that out. That's nothing like what you want to say." Then, now, with artificial intelligence coming in, even before like the 2020, we saw it getting so much better. I travel all over the world. I would take pictures and ask it to translate what the signs were telling me, like do not enter, which is very useful. So what happened was AI was always on the back end of systems. It wasn't in the forefront like we see now, where we know we're directly interacting with AI. Well, not always realize we're interacting with AI, but many cases like this with programs developed by these companies, Anthropic, Claude, Meta. These are kind of like the big ones that came out, and you'll be able to see a list of those in a minute. What you might notice about all these companies is they're all based in the US. France actually had Mistral that came out, but it was a very small kind of product at the time and wasn't widely used. But these were the main, and still are really main, used tools that we have there. So what was happening though is there was lots of competition between these companies, mainly in the US where I'm based. You're probably noticing that I don't have a US accent though. I'm from England. But these in the US were competing back and forth, and then DeepSeek came out from China and caused chaos, because now it was countries competing against each other. What was handy for us was that things were getting cheaper. They put something out, like I always remember ChatGPT putting out their deep research, and it was for the $200 a month for people in the US. And then a few days later, Perplexity put their version out for free. So it went from $200 a month to now $20, something that our students perhaps could afford. So a lot less price. But then DeepSeek, again, like we were looking now across countries. Today, this is the listing of all these companies now. And you can see, like by the little icons there, you can see on the far left, the most intelligent at the moment across all of these different intelligence index is ChatGPT 5 Codex. And as I'm looking down some of these, I just literally grabbed it off yesterday. And there's some, oh wait, you can't see. Oh my goodness. I am glad somebody actually stopped me there. Gosh, let me run back and share this. It should be sharing at the moment. Let me reshare it again. Thank you. Please, if you don't see things like that, please tell me. Like you see, there's the overview. You didn't realize Fine Speaker. Thank you so much, Mark. So you have this. People can see now. Okay, great. And then that's the back end. And now we're realizing we're interacting directly. We have all these companies here. These are the ones in the US. So you didn't see this. So these are all the ones that are the main companies as of a little while ago. Still are kind of now. But then DeepSeek came out. That was the one from China. And now there's major competition across countries. And let me add a little bit more actually. People might say, well, okay, that's going across countries. That actually is a major thing because everybody's kind of trying to look at the moment for AGI, artificial general intelligence, which means intelligence that can now do things better than humans. Although it's interesting because as we get closer to that, and we are super close, some people say we're here now. They're now changing it to ASL, you know, artificial superintelligence. But any country that actually has this, they will excel in multiple areas because that intelligence will add to extra intelligence, and every discipline, it'll affect a great deal of things. So this is a major competition worth noting. So here is the slide that I want you to see now. So you can see on the far left, ChatGPT 5, but if you scan over there, there's some that I actually don't even recognize, like the Apriel. I didn't know, but you can see Mistral, that's probably about the 7th one in, still there from France. But the major places here are China and the US. With little other bits in between as well, increasing. What we're learning though is companies don't have to take a long time to get in a very kind of far along place that they're doing really, really well. Like Anthropic that have Claude, which is, you can see it on there, they're actually near the top, Claude. That only started in, I think it was 2024. I mean, these are fast. So some startups are going unbelievably quick. So what does this make a difference to us in education? This is, oh, and I'm going to go back to the numbers here. Can you see at the top the artificial intelligence index? So these listing here are all different types of index tests. And so across all of those, this is what they're showing as the most intelligent. So going all the way up to the far left there as being the most intelligent. So again, what does it mean for education? It means that this is a pivotal moment in educational history. One of the first one was the Gutenberg printing press. So the Gutenberg printing press, as we probably all know, allowed print documents, print information to get to everybody, not just the very rich and famous or those in a particular religion. So information went out to all. Can you guess what the second point is there? What happened? How else did information get out to a great masses? What allowed that to happen? Radio was a big one. Yeah. Electricity that helped doing that. But I'm going to click here. Yes, it's the internet. So the internet was a massive one. Probably people are thinking, yes, that information wasn't all credible, whatever, but it still allowed a lot of information, and it made a big difference in education. I remember when the internet came out and it was kind of, what are we going to do now? Students can just get information from the internet, get answers, and just copy and paste it in. And we saw things happening like plagiarism checkers and things like that. And if you think how fast the internet came along and how we trust it to do things like banking and all sorts of things like that now. Now, the next one is generative AI. Now, I want to be really clear here. We had COVID that happened, disastrous. Many people lost livelihoods, passed away. It was a terrible time. But on the other side, now, many things are going back to normal. Some things have changed, but we're seeing things go back in many cases. To be clear, generative AI, you will not see that. It's going to carry on moving ahead. It is not going to kind of come back and say, oh, we're going to go back to normal. There's many people saying it's terrible, and it does do terrible things, but it also does lots of positive things. But either way, it's like we've had a bucket of water, thrown it on the floor. We can't put that bucket of water back in the bucket. So this is a major change in what we're seeing. So let's have a fast look, just make sure we're all on the same page. So this is ChatGPT. I'm just saying to it, give me 5 strategies for writing a great paper. So I'm asking it just to do something nice and simple, and it does it immediately. Nice and quick. This was actually the 4.0 version. So there we go. Just tells us there's no searching the web. However, we're in a different place now. We're in a place where we can actually ask it to do more thinking, to reason. So I've got a question here that I'm asking it, where it can't just go to a library and get an answer. It has to solve a word puzzle. And I'm saying there are 5 people, A, B, C, D, and E in a room. A is watching TV with B. E is playing table tennis. D is sleeping. Suddenly a call came on the telephone and B went out of the room to pick up the call. What is C doing? Can anyone figure this out? Yes. Oh, hi Mark. Yes, playing table tennis. This is one of my favorite ones to kind of put in to say, yes, it's not just pulling out from the library, it's actually thinking and reasoning. So let's see what it does. This was when ChatGPT first came out. So it's analysing the riddle. You can see examining the riddle further, and it's trying to work things out. Thought for 12 seconds, playing table tennis. So well done. Yes, table tennis can be played alone, but usually it's good with a partner. So this was about 2.5 months ago that we can see. The purple here on the left are reasoning. It's those that can actually work through problems and kind of think a little bit like humans. The blue there is the non-reasoning ones. This is of yesterday. You can see there's very few of the blue ones there, but most of them are reasoning. This is great, but I would like to point out as well, there's also downsides to this in the fact that they can overthink. You know, like students, you'll ask them to do something and you get something back and it's kind of, wow, you've gone too far, maybe a different direction, or just thinking too much. And that can happen on these as well. So sometimes it's nice actually to just get an answer. Many of these tools now give us a choice of what we want to choose, of, you know, more intelligent or less, just give me an answer. But where are we going with all this? The intelligence is speeding up, and basically think of it this way. We've always been the most intelligent humans on the planet, and we are about to be now number 2. So that's the fact of it is, whether you want to argue how intelligence and how that looks, but we are going to be second. So it's kind of thinking how we're going to use this. Think of it for our students. So the average person, the average student today, has access to more computing power than a Fortune 500 company did 30 years ago. What does it look like in the future? I'm going to describe this a little bit further as well. The average person soon has access to more labor than a typical billion-dollar company today. So you get the idea across countries there that what major companies are doing today and all the labor that they have, the average person will have that today. And you probably might be on the same lines as me, but let me explain further. So what we are seeing now is the emergence of agents. Agents are AI that kind of we can delegate tasks to. We can ask them to do things for us. For example, I have Comet with Perplexity, and it has access just to a few things at the moment because I'm being very careful because it's new. But what I do is I will say to Comet, you know, can you send an email to so-and-so? Can you go onto the website, find this latest thing, and you will see it interacting with your desktop and actually doing those things for you. So that's kind of a basic version, but just think of that on a mass scale. In fact, my prediction in the future is students aren't necessarily going to be on the phones. It might be very uncool to be on your phone when you can just say, you know, send an email to so-and-so and organize a restaurant visit for vegan people to have whatever, and it would do it all for you. You wouldn't be needing to have your phone and type in and do all these things. It would just do that. So agents is something to have on your radar. So let's have a look at some of these tools. We're all getting familiar now with the ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity that we're all able to use with just a simple prompt. These can actually do a lot more now. While you're thinking, yes, we've got used to that, our students have got used to that, but your students can go in and say, okay, I would like a set of PowerPoint slides on this topic. And yes, it can do those things. I would like a set of flashcards. Now, ChatGPT and Claude are great at doing that. I can even have Claude as of, I think yesterday, day before. You can even have Claude now as a sidebar on your Excel workbook, and you can have it in asking questions, and so you can interact with it that way. So it can do a lot more, and we've obviously got the voice capabilities and things. And you have lots of tools doing lots of things more, images, video, and audio. It's had images for a while now, and they've got nice 5 fingers. I was going to say 4 fingers there. They look great, but what do we think of these pictures? Are they good? Do they look lifelike? What do people think of these images? People are being so polite. They're terrible. This is what images look like now. Create an image of a mid-aged woman, too perfect, yes. Create an image of a 12-year-old boy. I cannot now detect the difference. What we used to be able to detect the difference by looking at images like this was the way that the light reflected on eyes, that if it didn't match, wasn't in the same place on the eye, on both eyes, we knew it was it could be fake. But these are very hard to tell the difference. And I saw the too perfect. This isn't bad. I mean, the mid-aged woman there's got wrinkles and hair's out of place. Gemini, this was created by ChatGPT. Gemini, though, does still give that very kind of beautiful look that kind of sometimes looks a little unrealistic. But now getting to the big point of this, think about it as this is the state of the field. This is what we have with AI. So here's the big question, and this is what I was asked to cover today. I covered this a little while ago, but then it's something we need to keep revisiting. The big question is, can ChatGPT, any of these other tools, provide students with answers to your assignments? Can you recognize AI output? I looked at the pictures there. Someone said, fool me at a glance. I have many pictures and I cannot tell the difference. So can we recognize when students are putting things in? Who thinks they can? Who at the moment could tell? And do you have any strategies for telling? No. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, when these tools first came out, the ones that I caught of people doing things what they shouldn't do, putting things in, saying it was theirs, were professors. And probably the way I noted that was professors are terrible at cheating. Students seem so much better. But this is great. I'm trying to spot over there in the conversation as well. So can you recognize the output? Well, have you felt that you could do that? Yeah, sentence structures, dashes, they drive me mad. Well, note that there are tools now called humanizer tools. So they get the AI output, your students can put it in these tools and have it make it look a lot more human. So it'll drop out those dashes and lots of things like that. So just make sure that's on your radar. So if you think we can eradicate cheating, we cannot. Just look at the picture there with the writing on the hand. I mean, how many people saw people doing that in the past? I remember seeing all sorts of people doing cheating, and it's something that's always here, but we have to make it as hard as possible. There are AI human detection tools. My opinion, still very strong opinion, is you cannot trust them. There's a lot of problems here with false positives. Sometimes it's very obvious, but I'm going to be showing you ways to do that in a few minutes as well. But be very careful using those tools. Some try and have a percentage, like Turnitin now has a percentage where it says, okay, I'm going to drop 20% just for avoiding false positives. But no, we need to go with different strategies. So back to the big question, can ChatGPT provide students with answers to your assignments? So first of all, give your students the purpose of the assignment. Do your students know why they're doing that? This is something we overlook. As experts in our field, in whatever discipline it is, we know why they're going to need it. But we need to get that across to the students. Do they know why? Maybe explain that obviously when they'll go out into their job, they're going to need to know that. And they're going to probably have a very miserable life in future if they're in a job that they don't know how to do. The next big one here is Educate students. Educate students on academic integrity. Do students know exactly what is cheating? And I would say absolutely not. In fact, I have students both ends of the scale. I have some that are saying, oh, we can do this because it's easy. I can just put it in here. Yes, that's cheating. I always say to my students, if I give you an assignment and you go home and you're working on the assignment and a friend comes over and that friend sits down and actually ends up doing the assignment for you, that's not okay. But if that friend comes over and looks over your shoulder and says, oh, you might want to change that, or let's talk about this, you might want to think about this, that's okay. Obviously not an assessment, but just general thinking, that's actually great that you have that friend that comes over as a thought partner. But now let's go to the other end of the scale, that there are many students that think the use of artificial intelligence is just cheating, that they will never touch it. I would say often I'm more concerned at them because they're not going to be prepared for what the future holds for them and the fact that they're going to need to know how to use these AI tools. The thing I'm always saying at the moment is when they go out for jobs, the big question they're going to get is, what can you do better than AI? So you have to prepare your students for that. So they need to know how to use these tools. So knowing the programs, it's important. It's hard because there's many programs out there, but you do need to have some understanding of what there is and what they can do. And in fact, I'm going to give a quick plug now. I have a major hour-long jam-packed session I'm going to do looking at some of these new tools on the 6th of November. So very soon. So at the end, I'm going to have a link to get to the RIDL website, and also I'll give you my email to make sure you can come along to that. But knowing the programs are super important to know what they really can do. Now, the main point of today is sadly we're going to look at kind of the cheating, dishonesty, academic integrity. We do need to keep focus on that. While we're kind of going past, there's still that issue, and more students are kind of looking at how they can offload work as fast as they can. But do keep in mind these other things as well. So offloading thinking, again, cheating. And I want to remind us personally in our jobs, I think many of us are offloading thinking that way. We don't want to lose the skills that we have. As well as getting students to gain the skills, we don't want to lose ours. We want to make sure that we are still using our critical thinking skills. Inaccuracies. I have sometimes people thinking, well, we're going past that. We are not. We're having a lot more new tools, new strategies, like I said, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. They can do all sorts of things now beyond what people have realized. And with those new tools, as they're coming in, they have a lot of inaccuracies. So we do need to watch out, and hallucinations. Data privacy, people are getting more comfortable and putting lots of copyright information in as well. So again, while people become more familiar with these tools, we need to be careful. Cognitive steering. For our students, we need to be careful. There's multiple angles I want to tell you on this. One is the sycophancy, what I called agreeable AI. AI will agree with a lot of what students are saying, so we want to kind of get them thinking, realize that it's AI they're talking to, and it is very agreeable. So we've got to be careful. Sometimes you can persuade it to say that answers are correct when it's wrong. But there was a recent study, and what they found is people can actually manipulate, like ChatGPT 5 and the Gemini, the most accurate one. the most up-to-date one. And what they can do is they can actually change people's views. And if you think of the political climate in the US at the moment, it's very dramatic. People are very one side or the other. These tools have been shown, I think it was Harvard that did the study, that within 10 minutes they can change people's political views. So just think how powerful that is. So we need to think about, I call it cognitive steering. We need to think about, again, good critical AI literacy skills in focusing on making sure that they're always aware about the conversation and knowing that these things can happen. So, as I was asked, spotting cheating. Still check citations. Citations are not always right still, they're getting so much better. Don't forget, AI doesn't have access to all those academic journals behind databases. So you'll see citations still going wrong, and you will see, the major part now is, you will see that citations don't often include the top people in the field, because those are behind that paywall that these AI systems don't yet, it might be in the future, but don't currently have access to, so they won't be citing those people unless they're open access articles, and then it will. But so watch out, so different ways slightly, and Mike has put a listing in there which looks interesting as well. Compare students' work across assessments. That's the obvious one. Turn around with complexity. And now here's one you may be worth listening to. So the one way I've found at the moment is having students using a tool such as Google Docs. On Google Docs, you can actually replay and see how the text formed. You can see, the typing, you can see if something's been just copied and pasted in as a batch. But that is one way that's helpful. Again, I wouldn't rely on it. There's GPT-0, a program. I'm not advertising for that in the slightest. I think you might have to pay for it, but it's the same idea. It's that you can look and see what's happened. You can see where they've gone back and tweaked things, and so that is one way. But here's the overarching for these quick fixes. Look for analysing writing patterns, uncommon vocabulary or phrases. Yes, it still uses the word delve. Unusual complexity or sophistication. So if a student's covering something you've not covered, lack of personal voice or reflection, although it can still do a good job of that now. But the last one there is the important one. Conduct oral checks. Oral being, don't send an email and say, oh, tell me about this. But if you can actually talk to the student and ask them, quite often they'll say, yes, I don't know, I'm afraid. I had AI write it for me. So I do want to be very purposeful in saying here, that is shorter fixes. So if you need quick time now to still change things, I understand if you're teaching lots of courses and you're having to change everything, but we do need to look for long-term solutions. So those quick fixes are again things like ask for citations from particular places, ask students to connect directly with field, ask them to directly connect with discussions, and you'll see that in a short while what I do. So ask them to say, oh, the discussion we had in class, or the discussion we had on the online forum, make sure you connect with that. And all the readings. There's only so much students can put into AI. And discussions, especially in person or online, they're very hard to actually get to, if at all possible. This is what I would like you to think about though. I would like you to think about different types of assessments. Think creative, application-based, real-world tasks. These are the things that really are good practice for education anyway. Things that we can do with students. And you might be looking saying, well, we don't have in-person students. I teach and I've taught for the last 10 years, if not more, asynchronously. So I never see the students at any time, never any check-ins. In synchronous, it's all asynchronous, but you can do a lot of these things where they can actually go ahead and do things in real world and then feedback. So I'm going to give you 3 examples. I've used these for a while and they're in all my classes, and I actually find these very helpful, and whatever discipline you're teaching, they can connect perfectly. So the critique, and I always say ChatGPT, but I'm using that as a generic generative AI, and the debate and the interview. And I'm going to do new slants on some of these as well as the regular. So critique. So have ChatGPT write a paper on whatever. You will then critique the paper looking for bias, inaccuracies, and alternative thinking. That's an important one. And suggested prompt, write a paper of about 600 words on the importance of, and your discipline will go in there. But note what I put there, submit the version written by ChatGPT, then I tell them to do track changes. Because otherwise they could ask ChatGPT to write the paper, and then they could say, okay, now go ahead and critique the paper. So even if they do that in this case, what I find is when they swap it, because with the track changes, they have to go to the very place and write comments or tag that place and go to the comments and make a comment off the side. By matching those things to the places, they're probably getting the same amount of learning in many ways. So again, think of those strategies. When it comes to grading, this is what I do. I have a rubric and it has it nice and clear, and you'll see there the critique shows strong connections, this bottom one, strong connections to what was read in class or the discussions on Flip, which is a program we use, and so on. So I'm pulling in those extra strategies as well. Debate, you can have a debate, have your students having a debate on, again, whatever topic, and you can be really creative. Like I had some in engineering, and the debate was which is the strongest metal, from steel to iron. It was steel and iron, and it was a very interesting one. And what we did is we actually put in the prompt, I would like to have a debate with you. You are steel, I am iron, and we're going to find out who's kind of the best metal. And so it goes through having a debate, not just on regular topics, but you can take on different personas. And again, nice simple rubric that covers all. Then the interview, again, the interview could be something that they're going out for a future job, but I have them really refine it. Like if they're actually going to prepare for an interview, I say put in the company, put in the application. If all this is on the web, they have direct access to it, and they're not feeding the model anything that it doesn't know already. So they can put all this information in, what the job is, very specifically, and it does a great job. You'll have to often say that last bit about ask me one question at a time, because sometimes it can fire too many questions in one go. But again, the interview could be somebody doing something else. Like it could be you as the user, your students, taking on the character of somebody in a book and saying, I would like you to interview me, Emma Bronte. I'd like you to interview me about women's place in society. and the discussions can be great. It could be an interview again, an engineering one for I have I'm having an interview and I have a very upset customer. I would like you to interview me as the representative of the company and on this topic. So your creativity is the only thing that holds this back. Think of multiple different ways. And you can even ask AI to think of different, very unique, innovative ideas, and it will help you with your thinking. There's one I had for a teaching position that I give my students as well. But now there are other options, and I know I didn't have very long today, so I want to just quick show you nice and fast. All the time in my career, I've always focused on what's available. People would say, well, why don't you explore some of these great tools that we can develop this tool and we can test it out. The problem is most people don't have access to doing those things. This, especially in developing countries, this is allowing access. Take a look at this. I want to, just nice quick prompt there called vibe coding, in that I'm going to code. I don't know how to code, but I'm just going to tell the AI to do it for me and make an interactive online game. So take a look. So create an interactive online game to learn about using artificial intelligence for educational purposes. And noting there, I'm using the free version. And watch what it does. Like I said, if you've heard the term vibe coding, it's where you type, and like I said, the AI does it for you. And can you see to the right there, it's doing all that coding. I don't know how to code, but it does. On the left there, you can see what it's creating. I had a very fast prompt there, but look at what it's developed for me. What you can do then, and I'm just trying some things out here, and it tells me not quite, and it reminds them what's wrong. You can develop this into however you want to look. I can also publish it, I can copy it, all for the students. I've had people using these for crime scene scenarios where it's great, where it's like a choose your own adventure. So you think, use your critical thinking skills, put in the prompt of exactly what you want. And then again, as with any AI, you can actually go back in after and say, okay, I'm going to type some things over here that I want it more rigorous, I want it more difficult, this is the level I want you to go to, and so on. I want you to make it more interactive. So the choice is yours. I'm going to stop on here. I promised I would have lots of time for answering questions. And here's the link to the research institute that I lead here at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. We're right on the coast. Please post questions, use the link there, and I'm going to put in my email. If anyone cannot find, usually if you go to my LinkedIn, you should be able to find the flyer for the session on the 6th of November. But that will give all the ins and outs of what new technologies are out there. This is kind of dealing with something that we still have to work through, making sure that we're having academic integrity in our institutions. So I'm going to stop and pass over for the questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Helen. It was very interesting and quite insightful. You gave a lot of ideas for us to think about. There are two questions already here. The first question is about, Mayanti is asking, if AI becomes a silent partner in every classroom one day, how do we ensure that its presence increases the voices of our students and not replacing them?
Yes, that
Um,
is a great question.
yeah.
And in fact, I can stop sharing here so you can see.
Yes. Yes.
There we go. That is a great question. And that is the responsibility of us as humans, that these technologies can do certain things, but how we choose to use it is important, and how we also manage that in our institutions. We've just worked on study policies and guidelines to look at things like this to make sure that it's being used as a way to extend and enhance learning rather than replace learning. So let me have a look at the question again, make sure I answered. Yes, a silent partner in classroom every day. That's how I see it. And I think we're going to have a lot more tools and things in future. I'm hoping that a lot of things that educators do away from students, a lot of tasks that take their time, is going to be hopefully replaced, that we actually have more time with students. I actually see us going more to being with students and having more of the personal touch in the future. I think AI may allow us to do that if we use it correctly.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose, using it correctly, meaningfully, and in a responsible manner, as you mentioned very clearly. Okay, so there's okay. Mark is asking a question: can there be a positive hallucinations generated by Gen AI? To what extent could this overlap with creative thinking? That's an interesting
Oh,
question.
that is a great question. And yes, I have seen it. Some people call these happy mistakes. um, and we have seen it happen in the very creative field of fashion. What happened is, especially with the AI image generators, they made all sorts of mistakes. There was one that had shoes, trainers, sneakers, and they showed the person kind of sideways with the trainer up, but it was massive. It was the shoe was huge in proportion to the rest of the body, but it looked great that they actually used some of these for the advertising campaign. Sometimes they give them an extra leg or something, and it was very creatively exciting. So we have seen this used a good few times. Yes.
Right. Right. Okay. So, there's another question. If we use mostly in AI, it will how it will affect our own thinking. Yes.
Yes. Yes, it will. That's where, again, like I said earlier, we do not want to offload things that we actually should be doing, because we hear about reskilling and upskilling, but we might be downskilling what we can do
Mm.
and what we've learned from all the past. So we want to be careful that we are still using our critical thinking skills ourselves, not just our students. So yes, we do have to, and I'm seeing that happen on some people where they were great writers, especially in academia, and it's gone more generic. It
Um,
looks kind of nice, but when you actually really look at the text,
mhm,
it's often repeating, and there's no real substance to it. It's just very generically nice.
mhm.
So yes, we want to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay. So, then another question is, what kind of reforms have to be done in the present Bloom's and Solo taxonomies to incorporate AI tools?
Um, well, I think of those frameworks as standalone reminders that there won't be changes to obviously those frameworks. I see us still sticking to those frameworks, especially Bloom's, and go right to the top creating. These tools actually are really good at helping us do that. You'll hear that I have a positive side, which many academics don't. It's kind of, we focus all on the negatives. I've talked through those. But there's many ways you can use these in very exciting things that you've never done before. So we need to look at these AI tools next to the frameworks to say, okay, we've always done it this way, but let's just take all that off the field a minute. Let's think of how we could teach.
Mhm. And there
Great
are,
question.
yeah, and so many new frameworks coming up. I mean, so many new things are suggested, and things keep on evolving, right? Changing all the
Yes,
time. Yeah. So
constantly.
yeah. So okay. Yeah, it's a comment. I believe human created AI will act faster than the human brain. Well, well, I mean, I think when you
Yes.
asked the question, I think humans gave the answer before the AI. When you asked that, ChatGPT 5?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's already faster than us. I will say, a fun fact. I was looking at research the other day, and what it showed is AI that was trained on social networks. And so it had a lot of input from these social networks. You might have heard the term doom scrolling, where people are just scrolling away. Well, what they found is these AI systems were becoming less intelligent
Mm-hmm.
and skipping thinking
Yeah.
steps. So yes, so that's a kind of
Oh,
fun fact there.
yeah, that's too bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in a course focusing on the use of digital technologies in education, what proportion of the course would you say would focus on AI tools? Rough estimate.
Okay, so that is what I teach all the time. That's what I've always taught. It is important to include AI and kind of having it throughout the course. But people are just focusing on generative AI. There's a much larger field of AI. I actually published the AI State of the Field in 2023, and it covered a lot of what there is before that. And they're still there. And these are models that have been developed for a long time. So these are very important to look broader at all the different types of tools, but have AI throughout. So it's,
Okay, we'll take
yeah,
just one or two questions. Okay.
okay.
Historic positive turnaround with influx of calculators from total reliance to critical usage.
Yes.
Uh,
So it's the
yeah.
same thing. It's kind of like the same thing as in calculators with very differences as well. That if a student's learning long division, you're not just going to hand over the calculator, you're going to have them learn how to do it. So then they can use the calculator after to then advance to other things. Because if they have to do the long division problem before they move on to higher thinking skills and they know how to do that, you can jump ahead. It's like in the supermarket, you're not going to say, oh, I need to do a long division problem. I can do that. Let me get some paper and pencil. You're not going to do it. You're going to quickly offload that, but you know whether it's right or wrong because you have your knowledge behind to then move on to other things. So we do have to watch out. We have to make sure people know the stuff. But I see us to going very reliant. I think we're seeing that already.
All right. Okay, that's a comment saying, what if we ask all these questions to AI rather than the resource person?
Well, you would get very generic answers and you wouldn't get from the research at the moment because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have access to all of that. So you get
Mm-hmm.
you get some answers and it sound very good,
Mm-hmm.
but it depends what you're asking questions on. But it's great as a thought partner.
Yes. Okay, then I think,
Okay.
yeah, right. Okay. So, participants, if you would like to switch on your videos or, unmute, you can do that. Okay, so I think we have spent a very useful time with you, Professor Helen Crompton. I think it's an excellent webinar, and you gave a lot of very insightful thoughts, and also good examples. Especially, I'm very, interested about the different types of assessments you mentioned to make use of AI in creative ways to assess students rather than banning them or like, we just can't do that. So I think it has been very, very interesting and useful for everybody So anyway, we are uploading all these webinars. There was a very good participation today. And as I mentioned before, we are uploading all these webinars into our Open Education YouTube channel. I will put that link in the chat box as well, because all these 10 webinars, 9 webinars already there, and this one also will be uploaded soon. So you can, if you have missed the previous webinars, you can watch all those webinars and all the participants. So let me take this opportunity to thank Professor Helen Crompton for spending time with us today and sharing your very insightful thoughts and giving us a lot of food for thought. And for the participants also, I thank you very much. And I would like to mention also now this 10th webinar is the final one of the series of webinars we have organized this year since January 2025. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the eminent experts who presented great webinars, and of course all the participants, as well as all those who supported this initiative, especially the technical staff at SETME who were with me throughout this journey. And I believe this collection of webinars we have uploaded into our OUSL, Open Education OUSL YouTube channel. We have shared them with the global audience. I think it's a very good collection of educational resources, and I invite you to watch them and share with your colleagues, students as well. So thank you, everybody, and especially thank you very much, Helen, once again. And
Thank you.
yeah, it has been a wonderful evening. It's evening for us here in Sri Lanka, but from different time zones. So thank you all the participants for your active participation, asking questions and giving comments. Then, okay, so we can wind up the session now. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. We are going to end the session now. Thank you so much.